Absolutely. So tell me a bit about Standout, because you've just mentioned it, but, you know, for people listening, it would be really great to know the amazing work that's being done.
Standout was really my response to thinking that there was something that was missing in terms of the support for people leaving prison. And we are independently funded, so charitably funded. We started in Wandsworth, and we're now working across the three big BCAT local London prisons, so Wandsworth, Pentonville and Wormwood Scrubs. And our work starts in prison and finishes outside, so bridges the gate, as people, through the gate, as people say. For me, that was a sort of no-brainer, but you've been around in prisons long enough to know that it wasn't always that way. So it is good that these days you can work through the gate, because that is fundamental for success, in my view. And so we run a program in prison that is all about empowering people to make positive change. It's about supporting people so that they start to understand and realize that and can realize their own potential. And ultimately, we're looking to support people to rebuild lives after prison and to thrive. And that journey becomes very much a journey that's personal for them. So it's not a one size fits all. Our framework for our work, I sometimes describe it as the invitational question when we're recruiting on the wings is, so you're coming up for release sometime soon. What are your plans? Have you got work lined up? Have you got training? Have you got things that you need to sort out? And the program is an invitation to come and have some space and some time to think through those things. It absolutely has some practical things around employment. But the really big things that we think are important are the stuff around mindsets and life skills. So building confidence through that engagement in a group, building some self-esteem, taking people out of their comfort zone, reminding them a little bit, I think, modelling how life works on the outside. So creating a space that isn't prison. So having a bit of fun in the classroom as well. I think there's a huge amount to be gained from learning when you've got some humour and some enjoyment in it, and just making it very real for people. So talking about their own situations with space and time, mixing group work with individual one-to-one support. And our approach we describe as a coaching approach. So we're always kind of throwing the ball to the group with a question and seeing where that goes and pushing further into answers. And so we have a curriculum, but it's very much kind of working with the, how the group responds. And a bit like anything in life, I always say, back in the days when I was actually delivering it and recruiting, it is classically an example of something where the more you put in, the more you'll get out. So,
Absolutely.
We kind of want to hear from you. We want to hear your views. We want to hear your voice. And for people who complete the program in prison, the period then up to their release, we support them with one-to-one casework each week, usually with coaches being in and seeing them, additional workshops, some of which the participants might themselves talk about. They might say, I'd be really interested to do a session thinking about family and how I'm going to reconnect with family. So we've done things like that, or we've kind of taken a theme. And then once they get to the gate, we will offer, if they don't have anyone to meet them, to do a gate meet and to take them to probation and to sort accommodate, to kind of go through those processes on day one, which are so critical because so often that's when things can go, for some people that can go really quickly awry.
Brought up a story, absolutely true, of a guy who came through our work, and I'm not going to say what prison or do anything that identifies the person, but he a lot of drug issues. He came through our program. He was so enthusiastic. He loved this. He was going out in the world to do it differently. His mum showed up at the gate with drugs, and within a couple of weeks he was recalled.
Yeah, and I've walked past or gone into Wandsworth, and there's been a flash Range Rover sat outside with the invitation to get straight back into dealing.
And I spoke to one resettlement officer, and he said that sometimes people are going out the gate and they say, "See you later this evening, Gov."
Yeah. So, meeting someone at the gate is just a way to support someone. I mean, obviously someone's got to want to have us there, but they're always really, kind of emotional days. But also they're days that often when the coaches come back at the end of them, they realise that they've had effectively a series of sliding door moments. Because they were there, they were able to kind of sometimes intervene into a conversation with probation to clarify things that maybe have not been clear and to smooth that relationship. And that's a piece of work that we do in the programme now, which is really critical. It's helping people prepare for how they're going to work with probation. What does that period of working under, being under licence mean, and how can you manage it well? How can a person on licence manage it well and understand the implications of their conditions, what probation is really about. Surprise, surprise, actually helping people realise that probation don't necessarily want to just lock them up again. They want their success. And so actually if you go in with a mindset that's what that's about, that can change the game and how those conversations goes. But sliding door moments at hostels where, no one's there to let them in at the appointed hour, and so you've got to kill the time, and knowing that you could just walk from that and then instantly be as you say, in breach by the end of the day.
And it's the first 48 hours are critical, aren't they, on release? I know that. And I know that there was someone once released on Christmas Eve from Dartmoor, which is in the middle of nowhere, and you can't get a train or a bus or and what I think you leave with, is it £35?
Well, it has now, they did increase it a couple of years back, so it is now, and it's meant to be pegged against with a cost of living rise. I think it's 70 something. Maybe I've just turned 80. So it had a big jump because it was so low. It hadn't increased for, I think, something like 19 years.
That's right. And and isn't there a couple of prisons? I'm not sure how widespread it is, but I've seen that there are these things called departure lounges now.
Yes,
that sounds really amazing.
And I think they're a really good move. Yeah. And again, they're addressing that that really critical need to check that someone is ready to go and has things in place, and often they'll have clothing supplies if people haven't got they've been in so long and they're coming out in the winter when they came in the summer. We'll do things like making sure people have got a travel card, that they've got food, that they maybe got a food bank voucher. We'll go and do, we'll do a shop, but maybe make sure they're set up, clothes and toiletries, all of those kind of things. And then after that kind of release point support, we then just offer a totally open-ended program of support, and it's very much guided by what each individual wants. So there's no program for that bit. It's traveling with people as they journey through that time after prison. So it's looking at what they want to prioritize and want to work on, and all the while we'll be encouraging kind of that focus on kind of getting back into rebuilding things in life. So rebuilding relationships, potentially looking at mental health issues, potentially dealing with, if someone's got clean inside but has never done a residential rehab, encouraging them to consider actually doing that piece of work that can be critical to cement that experience of kind of perhaps not having taken or used drugs or alcohol while inside prison, and then also continuing the conversation with people around training, around employment or volunteering. So we invite people back together from time to time outside. We run something we call Career Hub. And Career Hub replicates a little bit an event, a couple of things during the programme. So during the programme in prison, people work with volunteers to put a CV together. A separate day, they do mock interviews using a real job that they've chosen. And we also host employers in the prison and say, come in and tell the group about, your why you employ people with convictions who come out of prison, what working with you would look like, kind of invite us into understanding what it means to work for your company, and sometimes it's just sort of myth busting as well, so dealing with assumptions around disclosure or kind of DBS checks and the impact of those. So Career Hub it does a little bit of that. So usually on a Career Hub we'll invite a couple of employers in, and they'll do the same thing, and then maybe actually people in the room will say, actually I'd really like to talk about whether there's a role, and so there might be an informal first interview, or filling an application form in with a view to picking things up on the outside, or revising a CV. And we do that actually in partnership with a consulting firm who generously host us, and then have volunteers who also come into this conversation. So again, that idea that you've got someone who's taken an interest, who's taken an afternoon out of their office life to come and spend time. And
so for me, what I'm getting is, it's like the person's in the driving seat of their own life. You're not pushing them through any kind of conveyor belt where, you know, you've got to do this and you've got to hit these milestones, otherwise we don't like you anymore, which so many programs, you know, so many programs do that to people. So you're keeping people in the driving seat of their own life, and then providing, you know, either the sort of support of connection, the support of care, the support of saying, you know, you're not on your own, of helping people not fall into isolation, and then also doing things that are very practical and informative if needed.